PJ Washington gets a sizable contract extension. Jonathan Kuminga is getting closer and closer to taking the qualifying offer, and Jared McCain is on pace to be ready by training camp. We'll talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. And so PJ Washington, we're going to start off there. He gets a 4-year, $90 million contract extension with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this is a later extension as we get closer and closer to training camp, but it was one that was to be expected. I do think PJ Washington is going to have kind of a more straightforward role now with Cooper Flagg being there, but an important one nonetheless that PJ Washington is going to have for that team. And so because of that, they go ahead and lock him in. For what it's worth, the Dallas Mavericks have, I think that after, not that the Luka trade was right. It wasn't. It was still one of the more stupid trades that we ever seen. But now since getting the number one overall pick and almost since, everything since then has kind of made some sense for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'm in no way ready to give Nico Harrison any type of credit for being a competent GM. We got to see how this team is going to continue to build. But while some people do have the mindset that when you have a number one overall pick, you completely change everything just around that player, I'm one of the people who are a fan of developing a player in structure, meaning that you do have still a hierarchy. You still have a team, and you let that player develop with solid players around them. I'm in no way on the boat of the Dallas Mavericks being some all-in playoff team or championship caliber team or whatever the hell Nico Harrison said that he thought that they could be with having Anthony Davis there. But I am, big on the fact that this team does have solid pieces around it, and this is not going to be a horrible basketball team. And therefore, Cooper Flagg gets to come in with a solid coach in structure and really figure out what he's going to be at the next level. They also re-signed Dante Exum a couple days ago as well. And so now this is a Dallas Mavericks team that when you look at their roster, it makes sense. It makes sense. You have Daniel Gafford. You have Derek Lively, right? You have those two players that are going to keep Anthony Davis from having to play the center position. You got Cooper Flagg, that if Cooper Flagg develops into the player that people are expecting him to be, that's going to be your superstar going forward. And you still got some solid pieces around it as well. Like, and a lot of them still fit the timeline. Derek Lively, 22 years old, 3 years older than Cooper Flagg, right? So you have him there. Jaden Hardy's going to be an interesting one to see what they do with Jaden Hardy. But overall, they have this nice mix of team that can win some games now, that can compete somewhat now, and still go out there. And, once Kyrie Irving comes back healthy, who knows exactly what this team could be. I still think the D'Angelo Russell acquisition is a little bit shaky. I think teams always end up being a little bit disappointed in what D'Angelo Russell ends up bringing to that team. But they went out and got a point guard who can fill in while Kyrie Irving is out. And I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to be one of the more intriguing teams going into next season. Again, I'm not saying I have huge expectations for them because I do not, but I do think they're going to be a fun, interesting team to watch and see how things exactly develop for them over the course of the season. So, you lock in now PJ Washington, and you got a solid rotation here with the Dallas Mavericks. I've seen some people predict that they can still make the playoffs, and I guess you're looking at if Anthony Davis can finally be a true number one, which he never really has to great success when it comes down to that part of it, but you just never know how things are going to happen. He's going to be able to, play the four for the entirety of the season. How Cooper Flagg develops over this rookie year without putting too much, expectation for him to just completely uplift the team is going to be fun to watch as well. But, like I said, I like pieces of the Dallas Mavericks roster. I like how they filled out certain parts of this roster as well. I love that. So we'll see how that goes for this team as it goes on. Let me know what you guys think down below on this deal for PJ Washington. Do you feel like it was an overpay? Do you feel like it was right on the money? $22.5 million is the annual average value of that salary. And so, he gets paid. He's going to have a straightforward role with this team, and we'll see what the future does hold for him. With that said, let's move into the next one, a player that wants to sign or wants to get a contract extension, but it seems like as it stands right now, Jonathan Kuminga is getting closer and closer to just taking the $7.9 million qualifying offer. Apparently, the Golden State Warriors offered him a 2-year contract around $45 million with a team option in the second year. Jonathan Kuminga and his agent in camp want a player option in year 2, so they can get back out in the free agent market after this upcoming season. And it seems like that's not going to happen, and that's something the Warriors don't want. And I guess part of that, too, is we know that the Warriors, if they get Jonathan Kuminga signed to a longer-term contract, which is not on the qualifying offer so they can actually move him, that it does take away the ability, for him to kind of control that. And it makes it a little bit more if that second year is a team option rather than a player option for the team that's acquiring Jonathan Kuminga. So apparently, Jonathan Kuminga is getting closer and closer to just taking that one-year deal. Now, what would that look like? I always say for restricted free agents, it's good to bet on yourself, but at the same time, for Kaminga, being on a team in the Golden State Warriors and a head coach in Steve Kerr that have already shown that they are perfectly fine not playing him very much at all, having his role be very inconsistent, and you got to ask yourself, what could that do to hurt Jonathan Kuminga's market next year? But if Jonathan Kuminga is ready to take on and able to take on the risk there and is willing to bet on himself so much so that it could end up with him just not, getting a deal and having, playing on the qualifying offer, Kuminga could take that and just let it rock out and go where it's going to go. And so, we'll see what happens there. The Kuminga and all the restricted free agents, like this thing has gone on a long time. We are, basically 3 weeks away from training camp opens, about 3.5 weeks away from training camps opening for most NBA teams. And the fact that Quentin Grimes, Jonathan Kuminga, Cam Thomas, and Josh Giddey still sit where they are in restricted free agency with no real movement for the better part of 2 months, 60 days, with no real movement on progress towards deals, reportedly for these teams, it does raise the question on how is restricted free agency going to go forward in other years. Now, I do think this specific restricted free agency was more interesting with a lot of teams just not having cap space. That changes a little bit next season, but we'll see what happens when that comes down to it. But overall, it's just been a really interesting case to watch, and I guess we'll see where it's going to go going into that. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think Jonathan Kuminga ends up just taking the qualifying offer, playing on that qualifying offer, and letting it go forward, or do you think something else happens? Down the pipeline, and maybe him and the Warriors do agree, or maybe a sign and trade does eventually happen. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, something else that's been crazy that's come up is that Kawhi Leonard recently signed a deal that is interesting enough, right? And this shout out to Pablo Torre, who came out with this one, is that Kawhi Leonard signed a $28 million endorsement deal for a no-show job with a tree planting company funded by $50 million from the Clippers owner, Steve Ballmer. Now, as we've heard right now, this is just a funny thing that people are having fun with when it comes down to it, but this does seem like salary cap circumvention. Like, it really does feel like that. To have this level of deal, and then then you're the owner of the team invested in this company $50 million, it just seems a little bit awkward when it comes down to it. And it reminded people of the Joe Smith situation with the Minnesota Timberwolves. 25 years ago, the Timberwolves were fined $3.5 million and lost 5 straight first-round picks because the Joe Smith contract was voided, and the owner and vice president were all suspended when they tried to circumvent the salary cap. And so this is a situation where, I'm not going to lie to you, it seems mighty fishy. And it's one that when it was announced, it was just like, what is going on here? Now, I am sure that if it raised this many flags on social media from as many pundits, the NBA is going to be doing its research into this, make no mistake about it. But it does seem like, man, it seems like it's a little bit weird when it comes down to it. And even so much so that somebody, said this when I called as soon as he signed, said he's 100% is being paid outside of basketball to make up for the money difference between staying with the Raptors and going to LAC. Gross. That's what one person said on social media. This just looks really strange. And so, we'll monitor the story, and maybe we'll even get a roundtable going on this, but this one is mighty weird. A no-show job, $28 million? Seems a little bit fishy. But lastly, on basketball news, Jared McCain reportedly is on pace to return to the Philadelphia 76ers. McCain said this yesterday. Right now, I'm on pace. He did suffer a torn meniscus in his knee in December. And so while there's no clear timetable for his release right now, we'll see. The 76ers do play in Abu Dhabi on October 2nd and 4th. And so, he could be on the rosters by then. We'll see what happens. McCain did say this. I still haven't talked to them if I'm free for everything, but I'm definitely getting there. Jared McCain, who was probably on pace to be rookie of the year last year for the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the few bright spots for a 76ers team that it was a rough season from start to finish for them. And they are surely hoping that Jared McCain can come back, make a full recovery, and get back to looking like that progress that he was on as a player. And so we'll see. I know that Jared McCain and his eccentricness turns off some basketball fans, but I don't really give a shit about that. I care about what you do when you're between the lines on basketball. I don't care about any of that other shit. So getting McCain back on the basketball court should be fun and exciting for Philadelphia 76ers fans. But that's your update for today. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.